this now. Have you ever had a time in your life where you just couldn't be knocked off your stride? Maybe you were doing a sport, maybe you were focused on a project, maybe you were out training, but you just had it. You were just in flow. You could not do anything out of shape. You couldn't do anything wrong. You just had that total focus. Well, what happens there in the flow state is that you become very harmonic. You're in harmony. So your thoughts are in line with your feelings, and your feelings are in line with your actions, and that represents itself in your body and your physiology. And when you have complete harmony between your mind and your body and how you feel, that's when you get into peak condition, or peak state, or flow state as it's sometimes called. And you know, on the face of it, it sounds actually quite simple. You think, well, you know, it doesn't sound too hard to get that, you know, figured out. So why is it people find it so elusive? Why can you not get in the flow state all the time? Well, the reason being is that people will focus on one part of the system, because as I said, you've got how you feel, what you focus on, and what your physiology is doing. So you've got to line up your thoughts and your feelings and your body. And people might get 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3, but the reason they aren't getting into flow state is that they're not getting the 3 of them lined up properly. The reason that you got into flow state, and the reason that you found flow state at that time in your life, is that you knew what outcome you were going for. So whether it was completing that project, or it was making the end of that event, or it was crossing the finishing line, or it was, you know, getting the job done, whatever it was that you were doing at the time, you knew what your outcome was. It was crystal clear in your mind. And that's what happens when you have a clear vision. When you have that clear vision, you just know what you're heading towards, and you start to feel good about it. And when you can see the progress in your actions, you know that everything's starting to come together. And when you get that, that's a positive reinforcement. You just start to feel that everything's going to plan. And that is an amazing feeling. And when you see the outside coming to plan, and the inside, you start to notice everything rhythmically matching up so that you can get to that outcome that you've got in your mind. One of the things that you'll do when you're in the flow state is that you'll adapt and overcome. So you will adjust to maybe you're doing something a certain way and there's a better way of doing it, or you try something and it doesn't work. Just like an aeroplane or a boat that's sailing out in sea, they're making course corrections all the time. So when you're in flow state, what you're doing is you're adapting and adjusting to things that come up. So things like hurdles and obstacles don't stop you. You just find a way to get around them. And that's the beauty of it, that you can tweak as you go along, and because you know where you're heading to and you know what the outcome is, and you just find that rhythm and that balance. And as soon as an obstacle comes up, you're on top of it. And that's the beauty of it. That's why we want to get in a flow state, because when you're there, everything seems really, really easy. Now, surely it can't be that easy to get into flow state. Well, if you don't know how to get into flow state, or you don't know how flow state's achieved, it is extremely complicated. And that's why a lot of people struggle to get there. And the reason that they struggle to get there is that they're, as I mentioned earlier, they're working on one of the 3 systems, and they might be working on 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3, but very rarely are they aiming at 3 out of 3. And that triangle of what you need to focus on is really the key part that we're going to work on. And I'm going to show you exactly how they go together. And when I explain how they go together, the penny's going to drop for you. You're going to go, well, of course. And then you realize, well, you go, I've been trying it all this time, and no wonder I haven't been getting the result, because if I'd been doing it like that, if I'd been working with the triangle, of course I would have got it. Well, let's explain how. So when you're in the flow state, what happens is you're focused, you're determined, nothing knocks you off your stride, you can concentrate, you know what your outcome is, you can feel and sense the end, or the progress, or just that sense that everything's working, right? That's why you want to be there. See, when you're not in the flow state, do you know what happens? You have fear, you have doubt, you have uncertainty, you lack motivation. Does this sound familiar? that, you know, you start to doubt that you can make it. You start to doubt if it will ever work out. You start to doubt if you're doing the right thing. You start to doubt if you ever should have started it in the first place. I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted here. I know that you will know exactly what that feels like. So let's remove those feelings. And the best way to remove those feelings is getting into sync.